Hey guys, tonight you find yourself trudging along a muddy winter road toward a medieval castle whose dark walls rise above the river mist like a row of uneven teeth. Cold stone waits ahead, damp straw clings to the roadside ditches, and smoke from the castle roofs drifts beneath the evening sky before settling among the bare trees. Your boots carry half the road upon them. Torchlight trembles along the battlements while the breath of tired horses clouds the air beside a cart with a broken wheel. Somewhere beyond the walls, distant bells begin marking the final hour before sunset. Medieval travel brochures really oversold this experience. The wool beneath your cloak is wet, your fingers have gone stiff around your walking staff, and the faint smell of soot, horse sweat, and river mud follows you faithfully uphill. You probably would not last a week out here, although the small dog trotting behind you appears to have greater confidence in your abilities. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. You can also leave a comment telling everyone where you are listening from and what the local time is there. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The road narrows as it reaches the lower slope beneath the castle. Deep wagon ruts fill with black water, and each careful step sends a soft, sucking sound through the mud. Above you, the walls appear larger than they did from the valley. Their lower stones are dark with damp, their upper edges pale beneath a thin crust of frost. A square gatehouse stands at the end of the road, its oak doors still open, though only barely wide enough for a cart to pass. You hear the bell again. It is not the cheerful ringing of a market morning or the gentle call of a monastery at prayer. This bell carries a practical warning. The day is ending. Anyone outside the walls must hurry, and anyone inside must prepare for the gates to close. A group of villagers moves ahead of you, their shoulders bent beneath bundles of firewood and sacks of onions. One woman leads a narrow cow whose hooves slide unhappily in the mud. A boy carries a basket of eggs against his chest, though he is old enough to know that running on this slope would produce a supper no one ordered. Behind them comes an ink-stained monk riding a patient mule. A small lead badge is pinned to his cloak, marking him as a pilgrim, although the gate guards seem no more impressed by holiness than they are by turnips. The castle does not close at sunset merely because the Lord dislikes visitors after dark. Once the gates are barred, the fortress becomes a sealed household. Iron keys pass into trusted hands. Watchmen take their places. Dogs are released into certain yards. Fires are covered. Doors are counted, and strangers become much more troubling than they seemed beneath daylight. Arriving late can therefore be dangerous. No one can quite agree whether every castle follows the same curfew customs because each lord has his own rules and each gatekeeper has his own temperament. Yet the warning is always similar. Reach the gate before the final bell, speak clearly, and do nothing that makes an armed man above you suspicious. You continue uphill, while the little dog follows, placing its paws exactly where your boots have already disturbed the mud. It has no collar and no visible owner. Perhaps it belongs to the cart driver behind you. Perhaps it belongs to no one. Some swear that a dog following a traveller at dusk is a sign of protection, while others insist it means the dead have noticed your journey. The dog itself seems mostly interested in whether you possess smoked fish. The damaged cart blocks part of the road behind you. Its driver kneels beside the cracked wheel, striking the rim with the flat of his hand as though stern disappointment might repair timber. Two guards have come down from the gate to examine him. He points desperately toward the walls, then toward his load of coarse flour and winter apples. The guards do not move quickly. Castle rules rarely soften for bad luck. A broken wheel is unfortunate, but opening the gate again after it has been barred could risk everyone inside. A late cart might conceal armed men beneath its sacks. A merchant claiming innocence might be a scout. A farmer might be exactly what he appears to be, which in medieval life is almost suspicious in itself. The driver may spend the night outside beneath his cart, wrapped in a wool blanket and listening to wolves in the distant forest. He may be permitted into a nearby gate shelter if one exists. He may offer a coin and discover whether the gatekeeper's devotion to regulation has a negotiable edge. You decide not to discover this personally. The final stretch of road divides before the castle entrance. The broader path curves towards the main gate. A narrower track slips along the wall toward a small service doorway used by servants, messengers, and men carrying refuse away from the kitchens. For a moment, the smaller entrance appears inviting. It is closer. No wagon blocks it. A torch burns beside it, but a wooden sign hangs above the path, painted with a symbol rather than words because few travellers can read. The mark warns strangers away. Approaching the wrong entrance can be treated as more than foolishness. A person who searches for a lesser door may be looking for a weak point. Even a hungry traveller seeking the kitchens could be accused of spying. In tense seasons, when rumours of raiders move faster than honest news, a wrong turn beneath a castle wall may end with an arrow pointed steadily at your chest. You remain on the wider road. The villagers ahead begin calling their names toward the gate. The sound reaches you in fragments through the wind. Each person identifies a village, a trade, or a master within the walls. The woman with the cow is known to one guard. The monk presents a folded letter sealed in red wax. The guard examines it closely, though he cannot read it. What matters is the seal, the cord, and the monk's answer when asked where he received it. Seals carry authority in a world where signatures are rare. Breaking one without permission may be treated as a serious offense. Forging one can bring punishment severe enough to make a muddy night outside seem quite pleasant. The monk's letter is accepted, though the guard turns it over twice. Perhaps the seal belongs to an abbot. Perhaps it belongs to a minor official who enjoys important-looking wax. Even now it is hard to tell whether every surviving seal was respected as much as its owner hoped. At last you reach the shadow beneath the gatehouse. A watchman leans over the timber gallery above. His fur-lined hood frames a face reddened by cold. Another man stands beside the open doors holding a spear upright. Behind him, the castle yard glows with firelight warm enough to seem almost welcoming. Almost. Name and business the guard demands. You give both simply. You do not joke. You do not reach suddenly beneath your cloak. You do not claim friendship with the Lord unless you wish to meet someone capable of checking. You explain that you seek shelter and carry no weapon beyond a small eating knife. The guard studies your muddy clothing, then looks at the dog. The dog looks back. For one quiet moment, your entry into the fortress appears to depend upon an animal you met several hundred paces ago. Then the bell sounds for the last time, deep and slow above the walls. The villagers hurry through. The monk urges his mule forward. Behind you, the cart driver shouts from the darkening road. The guard steps aside. You pass beneath the outer arch, just as men begin pulling the great oak doors inward, their hinges groaning across the stone. The dog slips through beside your boots. Cold evening light narrows behind you until it becomes a thin silver line, and then the doors meet with a heavy sound that seems to settle through the walls themselves. Iron bars are lifted into place. The road, the broken cart, and the winter darkness remain outside. You are now inside the castle, though safety, as you will soon learn, comes with rules of its own. The iron bars settle behind you with a wooden thud, and for a moment the gate passage feels less like an entrance than the inside of a great stone throat. Torch smoke gathers beneath the arch. Meltwater drips from the ceiling. The little dog shakes itself beside your boots, scattering mud across the lower edge of a guard's cloak, then looks entirely innocent, which is a skill many courtiers spend years attempting to master. You are not yet free to wander. The gatehouse forms a world of its own between the outer road and the castle yard. Men stand above you on timber platforms visible through narrow murder holes and gaps in the galleries. A second portcullis hangs overhead, its iron-shod points dark against the torchlight. Chains disappear into the upper chamber where a windlass controls the heavy grille. The gate sergeant raises one gloved hand. You stop. Everyone stops. Even the monk's mule seems to understand that disobedience beneath a portcullis is rarely rewarded. The first rule is simple enough. When a gate guard tells you to halt, you halt. You do not take another step to show that you have nearly stopped. You do not turn suddenly. You do not complain that you are cold hungry, important or related to someone with a better cloak. A castle gate is a place where movement itself can appear suspicious. The guard beside you asks again about your knife. You slowly draw it from your belt, holding it by the blade so the handle faces him. It is a small eating knife, narrow and worn, useful for cutting coarse bread, cheese, cord, and the occasional apple that has survived winter storage without becoming a philosophy lesson on decay. He takes it and places it in a wooden chest. You receive a small notched token in return. This token matters. When you leave, you present it and recover the knife. Lose it, and the weapon may remain in the castle armory until someone decides you have proved ownership. No one can quite agree whether every fortress uses such tokens, but many great households keep strict control over blades carried by strangers. A knife at supper is ordinary. A knife near a lord is a question no sensible guard wishes to answer too late. The villagers surrender axes, billhooks, and long tools that could serve as weapons. The woman with the cow keeps a short stick used for driving the animal, though one guard examines its iron tip before allowing her through. The monk carries no sword, but a heavy wooden staff rests across his saddle. It is taken from him, despite his quiet objection. A pilgrim's staff may be sacred in intention and extremely practical in a quarrel. The monk receives his own token. Then the guards turn to the bundles. A sack of onions is untied, firewood is counted, the basket of eggs is inspected with surprising care. Contraband can be hidden beneath food letters inside hollow handles, and coins within loaves. A spy may carry wax tablets beneath a tunic, or conceal a rough map in the lining of a shoe. The gatekeeper presses one loaf with his thumb. Nothing happens. This is considered reassuring. Some castle households forbid strangers from bringing covered vessels through the gate without inspection. A sealed jug may contain ale oil medicine or something meant to burn. During unsettled times, even a barrel of salted fish can become suspicious, especially if it arrives at night with no one willing to smell it closely. Your own bundle contains a wool blanket, a spare shirt, a piece of coarse bread, and 2 dried onions. The guard examines each item. He lifts the blanket and shakes it. A small wooden spoon falls onto the stones. The dog noses it. You retrieve it carefully. The gatekeeper seems disappointed by the harmlessness of your possessions, although perhaps he is merely tired. Gate duty is cold, repetitive work, and disappointment is one of the few luxuries freely available. Near the inner arch, a clerk sits behind a narrow table. Beeswax candles burn beside his account roll, and his fingers are stained with ink. He records carts, merchants, animals, and tolls entering the fortress. Ordinary travellers may pay for passage, shelter, market access, or the right to bring goods within the walls. The woman pays a small fee for the cow. The woodcutters pay according to their bundles. The monk presents his sealed letter again, and pays nothing which may be a privilege of the abbey or merely the reward for looking sufficiently tired and holy. You offer 2 small coins for lodging in the outer hall. The clerk bites one not because medieval people constantly chew money for pleasure, but because soft metal can reveal whether a coin is poor, clipped, or false. He turns it beneath the candlelight and scratches the edge with a little knife. Then he accepts both. Market tolls and gate dues are among the quiet burdens of medieval travel. A bridge may demand 1 payment, a town gate another, and a castle market a third. A traveller can cross half a county while becoming steadily poorer without purchasing anything more memorable than permission to continue. The clerk gives you a strip of marked parchment. You cannot read it, but you are told to keep it. Losing proof of payment may mean paying again. Medieval administration, like the dog, has decided to follow you. Beyond the clerk waits a narrow space where horses are examined. The monk dismounts while a stable boy checks the mule's hooves and saddle packs. Animals entering a castle can carry more than riders. Messages may be hidden beneath saddle cloths. Weapons may lie between grain sacks. A horse might also bring sickness into crowded stables. Some grooms rub vinegar or crushed herbs along stall doors during outbreaks, believing the sharp smell helps drive away corruption. Juniper smoke is sometimes used to purify the air. Whether it truly prevents disease is doubtful, but it certainly convinces everyone nearby that something serious is being attempted. The mule is led away toward the stable yard. The monk watches it go with the expression of a man who trusts divine protection, but not stable boys. A horn sounds from above. Every guard in the passage straightens. You hear a call from the outer wall, followed by an answer from the inner watch. The words are difficult to catch, but the rhythm is familiar to the men around you. A sentry has challenged someone approaching after curfew. Passwords change according to the night, the threat, or the whim of the commander. One word may identify the watch, another may confirm it. A wrong answer can leave a traveller outside until morning, even if he insists he belongs within. Those who tell the tale never fully agree on how often medieval castles use formal passwords in peaceful times. Yet during war, rebellion, or fear of betrayal, spoken signs become vital. A familiar face is not always enough. Servants can be bribed. Uniforms can be stolen. Darkness makes honest men resemble thieves, and thieves resemble men who have misplaced their lanterns. The voice beyond the gate calls again. The gate sergeant does not reopen the doors. Instead, a small shutter in the outer portal slides aside. Questions pass through it. A name is demanded, then a place of service, then the password. The answer is apparently correct, but the doors remain barred while the captain is summoned. No one complains. The danger of a castle gate lies not only in attack, but in hesitation. If guards raise the portcullis too quickly, armed men can rush beneath it. If they close too slowly, the same can happen. For this reason, every command belongs to one officer. Others obey without debate. A gatehouse during an alarm is a poor place to demonstrate independence. You stand beside the villagers while rain begins tapping against the outer timber. Wet wool fills the passage with its heavy, animal smell. The half-burned candle beside the clerk gutters in a draught, sending shadows over the stone. At last, the visitor outside is admitted through a smaller wicket door set within the main gate. He is a mounted messenger, wearing a fur-lined cloak, his horse breathing white clouds into the darkness. Before he enters fully, he dismounts, surrenders his sword, presents a seal, repeats the password, and waits while every buckle on his saddle is examined. Urgency does not exempt him from rules. In a castle, urgency often creates more rules. When the inspection ends, the sergeant finally lowers his hand and allows you forward. You pass beneath the waiting teeth of the inner portcullis, feeling cold drops fall from its iron points onto your hood. Then you step into the outer ward. Stable lanterns glow along one wall. Servants hurry across the yard carrying baskets and firewood. Somewhere a smith strikes metal upon metal. The dog trots ahead, now apparently convinced that it owns the place. Behind you, the gatehouse continues its work, questioning, counting, searching, and listening, while the winter night presses quietly against the walls. You have entered the castle, but every object you carry, every path you choose, and every door you approach now belongs to someone else's authority. The authority of the castle becomes visible almost at once in the shape of doors. They stand everywhere. Around the outer ward, narrow oak doors beneath stone arches, broad stable doors bound with iron straps, low service entrances darkened by years of smoke, and one particularly heavy door set into the base of a square tower. Each possesses a lock, a latch, a bar, or a servant whose expression suggests that questions are not encouraged. The dog pauses beside the tower door and sniffs the threshold. You continue walking. This is already a useful difference between you and the dog. A steward's assistant leads you across the yard toward the hall where strangers may sleep. He is a narrow man wrapped in a brown wool cloak with a ring of iron keys hanging from his belt. They knock together as he walks, producing a soft, steady chime beneath the louder sounds of the smithy and stables. The keys are difficult not to notice. Some are long and plain. Others have broad handles shaped into crosses, circles, and curling patterns. One is nearly the length of your forearm. It looks capable of opening either a treasury or an unusually stubborn cupboard. In a castle, keys are not merely tools, they are signs of trust. The person who carries a key controls movement, food, weapons, documents, wine, clothing, and sometimes the freedom of other people. A cook may possess the kitchen key. A cellarer keeps access to the ale and salted meat. A chamberlain controls private rooms. The constable guards the armory. The steward may hold keys to storehouses, offices, and chests containing the household accounts. The lord naturally owns everything. He does not wish to spend his evening opening the pantry. You follow the assistant beneath a covered walkway where melting frost drips from the shingles. Damp rushes lie scattered across the stones. A servant gathers the dirtiest of them with a wooden rake, pushing aside bones, nutshells, feathers, and whatever else has settled there since morning. Fresh rushes are often mixed with sweet-smelling herbs such as rosemary, lavender, or meadow sweet, when the household can obtain them. The scent helps soften the less graceful aromas of crowded life. It does not remove them. It merely begins a negotiation. At the end of the passage, the assistant stops before a locked door. He selects one key without hesitation. You watch his hand. So does the dog. The man glances at you both. Castle servants understand that strangers are curious. They also understand that curiosity near a lock may later be described as attempted theft. You turn your attention toward the yard while he opens the door. Inside waits a small chamber containing wool blankets, straw mattresses, clay lamps, and spare wooden cups. It is not treasure in the usual sense, but winter makes ordinary objects valuable. A blanket can prevent sickness, a lamp can prevent a fall, a cup can disappear into a traveller's bundle with almost no effort. For this reason, even humble storerooms remain locked. The assistant counts out one blanket for you, then marks something on a wax tablet with a pointed stylus. When morning comes, the blanket must be returned. If it is lost, damaged, or carried away, you may be charged more than it is worth. Household officers keep careful accounts because shortages create suspicion. If 6 candles vanish, someone must answer. If a sack of oats weighs less than it should, the stable master begins asking questions. If a ham disappears from the winter storehouse, the entire kitchen suddenly develops an interest in justice. No one can quite agree whether medieval servants steal as constantly as household regulations suggest. Rules tend to survive more clearly than ordinary honesty, yet the locks themselves reveal how much anxiety surrounds stored goods. Winter is long, harvests fail, mice are ambitious, people are not always better. You tuck the blanket beneath your arm and follow the assistant toward the sleeping hall. Along the way you pass a narrow stair. Spiraling upward inside the wall, A chain stretches across its entrance, and a small lump of dark red wax seals the chain to an iron staple. The assistant notices you looking. The seal belongs to the chamberlain. Breaking it without authority would reveal that someone has entered the stair. Wax seals are used not only on letters but on doors, chests, cupboards and storage rooms. A stamped mark across a cord or latch provides evidence of tampering. A lock may be picked. A seal remembers. Some swear that clever servants warm sealed wax over steam and remove it without damage, though whether this works depends upon the wax, the seal, and the patience of the servant. Those who tell the tale never fully agree, perhaps, because successful thieves rarely prepare written instructions. The staircase leads toward private chambers above the hall. You do not ask whose. Private rooms carry their own dangers. Entering a noble chamber without permission can be treated as insult, theft, spying, or attempted violence. Even servants assigned to clean or carry fuel may enter only at set hours and often in pairs. A missing ring, a torn letter, or an overheard conversation can ruin a household career. The assistant guides you past another door guarded by 2 men. This one is reinforced with iron plates. A lamp burns above it, and the guards wear swords even though they stand deep within the castle. The treasury may lie beyond, or the record room, or a chamber holding something less valuable but more dangerous, such as sealed letters. You lower your eyes and keep walking. Medieval castles contain written documents that can matter as much as silver. Charters prove ownership. Account rolls reveal income. Letters expose alliances. Seals command obedience. A person caught taking or altering such records may face punishment far beyond repayment. A stolen loaf is hunger. A stolen charter is rebellion. Near the kitchen yard, the smell of smoked fish and onions drifts through an open passage. The dog changes direction immediately. You catch it gently by the scruff before it reaches a half-open pantry door. A kitchen boy laughs. The assistant does not. The pantry door closes and another key turns. Food stores are guarded carefully because servants receive fixed allowances. Bread, ale, meat, salt, and candles are measured according to rank and duty. The household may seem rich at feast time, yet every crust and cup belongs within a system. Unauthorized entry into a pantry can bring a fine dismissal, confinement, or a public whipping, depending upon the value taken and the mood of those judging. A servant accused of stealing from the Lord steals not merely property, but trust. The distinction is important to everyone except the hungry servant. You release the dog only when the pantry is secure. It sits beside you and sighs. The assistant finally reaches the outer hall, where travellers' lesser servants, armed retainers, and several piles of damp clothing compete for space. A fire burns in the central hearth. Smoke climbs toward the soot-black rafters, though much of it pauses on the way to reconsider its duties. The ink-stained monk from the gate sits near the wall, warming his hands around a cup of ale. His pilgrim staff has not yet been returned. He watches the steward's keys with quiet attention, then looks away when you notice. Perhaps he's simply waiting for his room. Perhaps he has business behind a sealed door. Even now it is hard to tell whether suspicious behavior belongs to spies or merely to tired travelers who dislike being watched. The assistant points toward a place near the hearth where you may spread your straw mattress. He gives you the blanket, a wooden cup, and a final warning. Do not enter any locked room. Do not touch any key left unattended. Do not break a seal. Do not follow a servant through a private door. The rules sound obvious, yet castles are full of dim corridors, similar stairways and entrances that appear harmless until a guard asks why you are standing there. The assistant leaves his keys chiming softly as he disappears into the passage. You settle near the fire, while the dog circles 3 times upon the rushes and lies against your boots. From somewhere beyond the hall comes the scrape of a bar being lowered across an oak door, then another, then another. One by one, the castle closes itself into smaller locked worlds, each protected by iron wax custom and the dangerous assumption that anyone without permission must have a reason for entering. The castle sleeps in pieces divided by doors, bars, and keys, but long before dawn it begins to wake through sound. First comes the scrape of a poker against the hearth. Then a servant coughs beneath the rafters. Somewhere outside a bucket strikes stone with a hollow knock. The dog lifts its head from your boots, listens, and decides that whatever is happening does not yet involve breakfast. The fire in the outer hall has collapsed into red embers. Your borrowed wool blanket smells faintly of smoke-damp straw and several travellers who have used it before you. Cold has settled across the floor during the night, creeping beneath the rushes and into your hands. A monastery bell sounds beyond the walls. The note travels faintly through the winter darkness, marking the hour when monks rise for prayer, and everyone else privately considers whether monks have made an unfortunate decision. You sit up as servants begin crossing the hall with baskets and clay lamps. The half-burned candle from the gatehouse has been replaced by another, though this one leans at an angle in its holder as if already tired of its responsibilities. The ink-stained monk is gone. His place near the wall is empty, except for a few crushed rushes and a dark drop of wax. You cannot tell whether he has gone to the chapel, to the kitchens, or somewhere behind one of those sealed doors that interested him last night. No one can quite agree whether suspicious monks are usually spies, thieves, or simply men trying to find a warmer room. The dog stretches and follows you outside. The courtyard lies beneath a pale grey sky. Frost rims the edges of barrels and roof tiles. Servants cross between buildings carrying water fuel and baskets of yesterday's bread. A groom breaks ice from a horse trough with the back of a hammer. Near the stable wall, chickens scratch hopefully at frozen mud, displaying the unreasonable confidence of creatures who believe food should appear because they have arrived. At the centre of the yard stands the castle well. It is deeper than you expect, protected by a low circular wall of worn stone and covered by a timber roof. A wooden windlass turns above the shaft. Its rope is dark with moisture and an iron-bound bucket hangs from one end. 2 guards stand nearby. This seems excessive until you notice the rules. No animal may be brought close to the well. No dirty vessel may touch the drawing bucket. No one may wash clothing, boots, tools, or hands over the opening. Children are kept away. Strangers must wait for a servant assigned to draw water. Even household members may be forbidden from using it without supervision during times of fear. Water is not merely useful inside a castle, it is survival. During a siege, a well can matter more than towers, banners, or the Lord's finest silver cup. Food may be rationed, horses may be slaughtered, ale may run low, a tragedy of such seriousness that even the chaplain begins watching the barrels. But without clean water, the fortress cannot endure. A kitchen maid approaches with 2 wooden pails. Before lowering the bucket, she looks inside the well and makes a quick sign of the cross. Some people believe wells can be troubled by spirits, saints' curses, or the restless dead. Coins, pins, scraps of cloth, and small offerings are sometimes dropped into sacred springs or healing wells. Castle wells are treated more practically, though habit has a way of following people even when guards forbid it. Some swear that a silver coin dropped into water helped to keep it wholesome. Others insist that a sprig of rosemary or a blessed medal protects against corruption. The guards prefer that nothing at all be dropped inside, holy or otherwise. The maid fills her pails and carries them toward the kitchens. You follow at a respectful distance. Near the cookhouse, the ground becomes warmer and muddier. Smoke escapes through roof vents and the air smells of onions, damp wood fat, and yesterday's ashes. A boy turns a spit before a low fire. Another grinds oats in a stone quern. A woman stirs a broad pot of pottage with a wooden paddle nearly as tall as she is. Breakfast for the lesser household is plain coarse bread softened in ale, oat pottage, perhaps a little cheese and smoked fish for those fortunate enough to be assigned a portion. The cookhouse has its own water rules. 1 barrel is used for cooking, another is reserved for washing vessels. A smaller covered jar holds water for the Lord's table. Servants who confuse them may receive more than a scolding, especially if sickness has recently passed through the household. The fear of poisoning hangs quietly over noble kitchens. A lord with rivals may employ trusted servants to taste food and drink. Cups are watched, salt is guarded, dishes are carried along known routes. A stranger wandering near the sauce pots can attract attention faster than a cat near an open milk pail. You stop beside the doorway. The cook notices you. She points her paddle toward the yard. You step back. This is not technically a conversation, but the meaning is exceptionally clear. The dog, however, has entered beneath a side bench and discovered a strip of smoked fish. A kitchen boy dives after it. The dog escapes with the fish. The boy strikes his head on the table, and the cook closes her eyes as though asking a saint for patience. The saint, having reviewed the situation, appears unwilling to intervene. You catch the dog near the woodpile and return the stolen prize. The cook accepts it, looks at the mud on it, and throws it into a scrap bucket. The dog watches this decision with deep, personal sorrow. Beyond the kitchen stands a row of storehouses built against the inner wall. Their doors are thick, their windows narrow, and their roofs kept carefully repaired. Grain beans, onions, dried peas, salted meat, smoked fish cheese, and barrels of ale must last through the cold months. Every sack is counted, every barrel is marked. Winter storehouses are opened under supervision because one careless servant can spoil provisions for hundreds. Damp grain grows mold, rats chew through sacks, Salt meat may rot if badly packed. Apples stored too close together can turn soft and spread decay through the whole basket. A steward checks the grain by pushing his hand deep into a sack and smelling the kernels. A cellarer taps an ale barrel and listens to the tone. A woman sorts onions, removing any that feel soft. Medieval household management depends greatly upon touching and smelling things until they reveal whether they intend to become supper or a medical emergency. Near one granary door you notice a small bundle of dried herbs tied above the lintel. It contains rue rosemary and perhaps wormwood. Such plants may be placed there to repel insects, bad air, witchcraft, or all three at once. Even now it is hard to tell whether the bundle is practical protective or simply old enough that no one dares remove it. The steward sees you looking and warns you not to lean against the door. Storehouses are sometimes sealed after counting. If grain disappears, everyone with access may be questioned. Theft during abundance is a crime. Theft during siege can be treated as betrayal. The punishment grows harsher because a stolen sack does not merely deprive the lord, it shortens the time the entire castle can survive. Beside the granary stands a covered cistern that catches rainwater from the roofs. Its stone lid remains closed except when servants draw from it. Cistern water may be used when the well is damaged, fouled, or inaccessible. It may also be reserved for animals, washing, or fire. A guard keeps the key. Someone has scratched a small cross into the lid. Another mark resembles an eye. Perhaps it is meant to watch against poison, perhaps it is merely the idle work of a bored servant. Those who tell the tale never fully agree. A bell rings from the inner ward. The kitchens become busier. Baskets move toward the hall. A servant carries trenchers made from thick slices of stale bread. Another bears a pitcher of weak ale. The smell of warm pottage spreads across the courtyard. You receive a wooden bowl and sit beneath the covered passage, warming your hands around the steam. The dog settles beside you, still grieving the fish. Across the yard, the well rope creaks steadily. Water rises from the darkness below, bucket after bucket, guarded as carefully as any treasure in the castle. And as you eat, you begin to understand that the most dangerous rules are not always those protecting crowns, weapons, or locked chambers. Some protect nothing more glamorous than a clean bucket, a sealed grain sack, and enough water to keep everyone alive until morning. The pottage warms you slowly, first through your hands, then through your chest, while the morning light remains thin and grey above the courtyard. Steam drifts from the bowl and mingles with smoke rolling from the kitchen roof. Everywhere inside the castle fire is waking. A baker feeds split logs into the oven. A smith works the bellows beneath a hood of soot. Servants carry glowing coals from one chamber to another in covered iron pans. Cooks stir pots over open hearths. Guards warm stiff fingers beside braziers, and clerks soften sealing wax above candle flames. Fire prepares the bread, dries the wool, lights the corridors, heats the water, and keeps winter from settling permanently into the bones of everyone within the walls. It is also the castle's oldest enemy. Stone does not burn easily, but almost everything resting upon it does. Roof beams are timber, doors are oak. Floors may be covered with dry rushes. Beds are filled with straw. Storerooms hold grain cloth, oil wax, rope, and firewood. Smoke gathers beneath wooden rafters that have been drying for generations. One fallen candle can do what an army cannot. You finish the pottage and return the bowl. A servant crosses the yard ringing a small handbell. At once, several people begin checking doors, hearths, and braziers. The bell is not a call to prayer. It marks the morning fire inspection. A castle officer known as a fire watcher, chamberlain's servant, or simply the man unfortunate enough to receive the duty moves from building to building. He carries a bucket, an iron hook, and a long wooden staff. The hook can pull burning rushes or roofing away from a blaze. The staff is used to stir ashes and test whether hidden embers remain alive. He enters the outer hall where you slept. The hearth still glows. A servant has pushed fresh logs across the coals, but the watcher orders one removed. The fire is too large for the number of people present. Sparks rise toward the rafters, and a strip of charred cloth lies dangerously close to the edge. The servant mutters. The watcher hears him. The log is removed without further discussion. Fire rules often depend upon rank, season, and hour. The great hall may keep a large hearth burning during meals, while smaller chambers receive only a brazier. Some rooms are permitted candles after dark. Others must surrender them at curfew. Servants sleeping in storerooms may be forbidden any flame at all, no matter how cold the night becomes. Comfort is valuable. A surviving roof is considered slightly more valuable. You follow the watcher into a narrow passage where beeswax candles sit in wall niches. Beeswax burns more cleanly and smells sweeter than tallow, but it costs more. The finest candles are reserved for the chapel noble chambers and ceremonial tables. Lesser halls use tallow candles made from animal fat. Tallow smoke sputters and occasionally attracts hungry mice. Medieval mice are apparently willing to risk fire for supper, which gives them something in common with many travellers. Each candle stands inside a metal holder with a broad drip pan. None may be placed directly upon a wooden chest bed frame or window ledge. A servant trimming the wick uses small scissors, cutting away the blackened end so the flame does not grow too high. The clipped wick falls into the pan. Leaving it upon the rushes would earn a sharp rebuke. Rushes on floors are replaced more often in wealthy chambers and less often in crowded halls. Fresh ones may smell pleasantly of herbs. Old ones become mixed with crumbs, grease dust feathers, and bits of straw. When dry, they can carry flame across a room with frightening speed. This is why certain castles forbid people from carrying uncovered candles through sleeping halls. Lanterns must have horn or thin parchment panels around the flame. Torches are kept outside private chambers. A guest moving after dark may require a servant to guide the way. The rules are inconvenient until the alternative begins burning. The watcher pauses beside a wooden door and points toward a black mark above it. Long ago, a lamp has scorched the lintel. The damage is small, no wider than your hand, but no one has painted over it. It remains as a warning. Some swear that a piece of burned wood taken from a church struck by lightning protects a house from future fire. Others hang hawthorn or blessed palm near the hearth. In certain places, people invoke Saint Florian, Saint Agatha, or another holy protector when flames threaten. The castle watcher prefers buckets. Both approaches may be used together because medieval caution rarely objects to additional assistance. Near the kitchen, Rows of water pails stand beneath the eaves. They are kept filled even in winter. Ice must be broken each morning. Leather buckets hang from hooks nearby, along with ladders and long poles. No one may borrow them. A servant who uses a fire bucket for washing boots can be fined. A groom who carries one to the stables and forgets to return it may lose wages. In an emergency, every object must already be where people expect to find it. The baker's oven receives special attention. Its fire burns hot enough to heat thick stone, and its chimney rises through a timber roof. The baker checks cracks in the oven walls, sweeps loose ash away, and keeps flour sacks at a distance. Fine flour dust hangs in the air around the kneading tables and settles over shelves like pale frost. It appears harmless. The baker treats it with respect. A spark among dry sacks can spread before anyone reaches the well. The oven, therefore, has a closing stone and an iron rake. At night the fire is drawn down, ashes are covered, and the bakehouse door is locked. The smithy follows different rules. Sparks belong there, but straw does not. The floor is bare earth and stone. Water troughs stand beside the forge. Charcoal is stored away from the hottest wall. The smith's apprentices sweep constantly, though their faces suggest they consider sweeping a cruel distraction from hammering metal. The dog enters the smithy, dislikes the first shower of sparks, and retreats with admirable speed. You follow more calmly. By afternoon, a dry wind begins moving across the battlements. Guards check the roofs because wind can lift sparks from chimneys and carry them across the ward. Kitchen fires are reduced. Outdoor braziers are covered. A servant removes laundry hanging too near a vent. The castle feels colder almost immediately. No one complains loudly. A fire in winter can spread through wooden galleries, stables, workshops, and roofs before men organize a bucket chain. Horses panic, smoke fills stairways, gates may become blocked. Locked doors intended to prevent theft can trap people inside. For this reason, certain doors remain unbarred while fires are burning. Passageways must stay clear. Piles of wood cannot block stairs. Sleeping servants are assigned turns to watch important hearths through the night. Falling asleep on fire watch can bring severe punishment, not because sleep is a moral failure, but because everyone else may never wake. As evening approaches, you help carry water toward the outer hall. The bucket is heavy and cold water splashes over your fingers. It is placed beside the hearth along with a damp wool cloth for smothering sparks. The same half-burned candle from the night before is lit again. Its flame is small. A servant checks the rushes around it twice. Beyond the walls, winter wind moves through bare branches and presses smoke low across the rooftops. Inside, hearths glow one by one beneath careful eyes. The warmth feels gentler now that you understand how closely it must be watched. Every flame in the castle is a servant. Every flame is also waiting for a careless hand. The half-burned candle shortens while darkness gathers fully around the castle, and the small flame throws a trembling circle over the rush-covered floor. Beyond that circle, the outer hall becomes a landscape of wool blankets, boots, shadowed faces, and smoke resting beneath the rafters. The fire watcher makes one final round. He stirs the hearth, checks the bucket, studies the chimney, and leaves without trusting anyone enough to wish them a pleasant night. Outside, the watch bell sounds. Its first stroke is deep enough to tremble through the oak doors. Conversation fades. Wooden cups pause halfway to mouths. Even the dog lifts its head, though it quickly decides that bells are less interesting than crumbs beneath a bench. The bell announces the changing of the guard. Along the wall walks and tower stairs, tired sentries surrender their posts to men who have eaten, warmed themselves, and perhaps slept for a few hours. The exchange follows rules as strict as those at the gate. A watchman does not simply wave to his replacement and wander away in search of ale. He reports what he has seen. He reports what he has heard. He reports every light upon the road, every barking dog beyond the ditch, every delayed messenger, every unusual hound beneath the walls, and every shadow that may have been a man, a bush, or a man behaving with the ambition of a bush. You step outside, with the others permitted to watch the change. The courtyard is colder than before. Frost shines upon the stones. Lanterns move along the battlements, each one hidden behind thin horn panels that soften the flame into a dull amber glow. Above the inner gate, a sentry calls down to the guard captain, "All quiet." The words sound reassuring. The captain does not accept them immediately. He asks whether the northern road is clear. He asks whether the river path has been watched. He asks whether the dogs near the lower wall have barked. He asks whether anyone has approached the postern door. Only when every answer is given does the outgoing sentry descend. Watch duty is a chain. One missing link can open an entire fortress. A man who abandons his station without permission may be fined, imprisoned, dismissed, or punished more harshly during wartime. A guard who sleeps at his post risks far worse. The danger lies not only in an enemy climbing the wall. Fire may break out, prisoners may escape, servants may open a forbidden gate. A messenger may arrive bearing news that cannot wait until morning. Sleep on the battlements becomes a form of treachery. This is rather unfair to Sleep, which has committed no offence, beyond being extremely persuasive. The new guards climb upward carrying spears, cloaks, and small bundles of food. One has coarse bread and cheese tied inside a cloth. Another carries a leather bottle of weak ale. They may stand for hours in wind sharp enough to numb the face, so wool hoods, fur-lined gloves, and thick cloaks matter almost as much as weapons. A servant distributes hot stones wrapped in scraps of cloth. The guards tuck them beneath their cloaks for warmth. Some watchmen also carry small bags of herbs, believing the scent helps keep them alert. Rosemary, mint, and rue may be crushed between cold fingers. One older sentry keeps a hazelnut charm in his pouch carved with a tiny cross. He says it protects him from evil seen in darkness. Some swear that a watchman who hears his own name whispered outside the walls must never answer, because the voice may belong to no living person. No one can quite agree whether this belief comes from old forest tales, warnings against enemy tricks, or simply the understandable desire not to hold conversations with darkness. The captain appears willing to accept all charms provided the men remain awake. A horn hangs beneath the gatehouse roof. It is not used lightly. Different blasts carry different meanings. One may call the guards to arms, another warns of fire. A longer signal may announce riders' attack or trouble near the wall. The exact pattern varies from fortress to fortress, and confusing it can spread panic faster than any enemy. For that reason, only certain men may sound the alarm. A board servant cannot blow the horn to test whether everyone is listening. A drunken guard cannot use it to summon his friends. A child cannot touch it even if the child is noble and has recently discovered a strong interest in noise. False alarms carry real consequences. Men rush from beds without armor properly fastened. Horses are startled in the stables. Kitchen fires are neglected. Gates are barred. Weapons are distributed. In the confusion, someone may fall from a stair strike a companion or mistake a servant for an intruder. The castle therefore fears careless signals almost as much as absent ones. You follow the steward's assistant toward the gatehouse stairs. His keys chime softly at his belt, though he wraps them in a fold of cloth before climbing. Metal striking metal can carry far in still night. Above silence has rules of its own. Sentries may speak quietly, but they cannot sing. Dice are forbidden. Loud laughter is discouraged. Drinking beyond the issued allowance is punished. A watchman who argues with his companion may miss a sound below the wall. The walkway feels narrow beneath your boots. On one side rises the sloping roof of the outer hall. On the other lies darkness beyond the parapet. The river reflects a faint strip of moonlight. Mist gathers over the fields, and the road by which you arrived disappears into whiteness. Somewhere beyond the gate, the driver with the broken cart may still be waiting beneath his axle. You wonder whether he has found shelter. The dog remains below, which proves that curiosity has limits when stairs are icy. A sentry points toward a distant glow among the trees. The guard captain watches it carefully. It may be a charcoal burner's fire, it may be shepherds sheltering near a hedge, it may be travellers camped beside the road. It may also be a signal placed where someone inside the fortress can see it. The captain sends no men out. Instead, he orders the northern watch doubled. Those who tell the tale never fully agree on how often signal fires truly reveal conspiracies. Many innocent fires must have appeared sinister from castle walls, yet suspicion is part of watch duty. A guard who ignores danger is blamed. A guard who imagines danger merely makes everyone cold. An hour passes slowly. The monastery bell sounds across the valley. The castle bell answers with a smaller stroke, marking time for men who cannot see a clock and have no need to know minutes. Their night is measured by prayers, watch changes, candle lengths, and the position of stars above the towers. Then the dog begins barking below. Every sentry turns. The barking comes from near the inner gate. A shadow moves beside the stable wall. One guard lowers his spear. Another reaches for the alarm rope. The captain raises his hand. Everyone waits. The shadow emerges into lantern light. It is the ink-stained monk. He carries his recovered pilgrim staff and a clay cup, apparently returning from the privy, or from some less innocent journey through the darkened ward. He looks up at the armed men and freezes. The dog continues barking as though it has uncovered a grand conspiracy. The monk raises the cup. The captain lowers his hand. No horn sounds. The moment passes without alarm, injury, or explanation. The monk walks quickly back toward the hall, and the dog follows, proud of its service to the realm. You descend behind them, careful upon the icy stairs. The watch bell rings once more as another hour settles over the walls. Above you, the sentries remain beneath the winter sky, listening to the road, the river, the wind, and the long, uncertain silence between one sound and the next. The watch bell fades above the roofs, leaving the winter night to settle once more around the castle, but inside the great hall another kind of order is preparing itself. Supper is nearly ready. You follow the ink-stained monk through the outer passage, where servants hurry beneath trays of bread bowls of pottage, roasted onions, and smoked fish. The dog trots between them with dangerous optimism, convinced that every moving platter represents a personal invitation. The great hall is warmer than the sleeping chamber, though not evenly so. A broad fire burns in the central hearth, and smoke rises toward the soot-black rafters before drifting sideways beneath the roof. Those seated nearest the flames loosen their cloaks. Those near the walls keep fur-lined hoods pulled close and warm their hands around cups. Rushes cover the stone floor. Fresh herbs have been scattered among them, perhaps rosemary and sweet flag, though beneath the stronger smells of wet wool, ale, smoke, and human company, their contribution is mostly symbolic. At the far end stands the high table upon a raised platform. This is where the lord, his family, honoured guests, and senior officers sit beneath hanging cloths intended to soften draughts and display wealth. The table itself is laid with a linen cloth, metal cups, carved salt cellars, and beeswax candles that burn more steadily than the tallow candles below. Everything about the room declares rank. The height of the seat matters. The nearness to the lord matters. The quality of the cup matters. Even the distance from the salt may matter. You do not choose your own place. A household usher stands near the entrance and directs each person according to status, duty, and invitation. Knights move towards the upper benches. Clerks and trusted servants sit farther down. Stable hands, kitchen workers, guards, travellers, and lesser retainers take places on lower benches or at trestle tables near the doors. Sitting too high can be treated as an insult. Sitting too low may offend someone who believes you are rejecting an honour. Medieval supper therefore begins with the peaceful task of worrying about furniture. The usher places you at a lower table beside the monk. 2 gate guards, a wool merchant, and a servant whose sleeves smell strongly of horses. The dog attempts to sit beneath the high table. It is removed. It returns. It is removed again. By the 3rd attempt, even the steward appears to respect its commitment. A servant brings thick slices of stale bread to use as trenchers. These are not merely pieces of bread for eating. They serve as plates absorbing grease broth and sauce beneath shared portions of meat or fish. A better trencher may be cut from yesterday's fine loaf. A poorer one may be coarse, hard, and strong enough to survive the meal with greater dignity than some guests. You place yours carefully upon the table. No one begins eating. At the high end, a chaplain lifts his hand and speaks a blessing. Heads lower throughout the hall. The monk beside you crosses himself. The merchant does the same, though one eye remains fixed upon the arriving fish. Only after the lord touches his food do the others begin. This rule protects rank and perhaps safety. If something is wrong with the meal, no one wants the entire household to discover it at once. It also prevents a hungry retainer from eating half the supper while his betters are still adjusting their sleeves. Servants move in practiced lines. Bowls are offered first at the high table, then carried downward. Portions become smaller as they travel. By the time the smoked fish reaches you, it has completed a social journey almost as difficult as your arrival at the gate. You receive a piece with onions and a spoonful of pottage. The dog receives nothing. It looks betrayed by the entire feudal system. At your table, several people share each dish. You eat with your fingers, your spoon, and the small table knife provided by the household. Your own knife remains locked in the gatehouse chest, which is probably wise considering how closely the merchant guards the largest onion. Table manners are not as careless as later storytellers sometimes imagine. You wash your hands before eating. You do not place bitten food back into a shared bowl. You do not dip greasy fingers into the salt. You do not scratch yourself with the eating knife, clean your teeth with it, or point it towards another guest while speaking. You also avoid blowing loudly upon hot food. This is partly courtesy and partly protection for everyone seated opposite you. The monk drinks from a shared cup and wipes the rim before passing it. The gate guard beside him turns the cup slightly before drinking from another place. Some households use individual cups for higher-ranking guests, while others pass vessels among several diners. A cupbearer watches those intended for the Lord. Wine or ale may be poured only from known jugs, sometimes tasted before service and kept beneath the eye of trusted officers. Poison is feared, even when no poison exists. A sudden illness after supper can awaken suspicions that survive longer than the victim's indigestion. Certain precious stones are believed to reveal poison by changing color, sweating, cracking, or growing dull. Unicorn horn, usually something much less magical sold under a more profitable name, is sometimes said to neutralize dangerous substances. No one can quite agree whether nobles truly trust these objects or simply prefer expensive reassurance. The cupbearer seems to trust his own eyes. He inspects the Lord's cup before every refill and never leaves the jug unattended. At your end of the hall, the ale is weaker, darker, and less carefully supervised. It is still welcome. Water is not always trusted, and small ale provides nourishment as well as drink. You take a measured swallow. Drunkenness at a common table may earn laughter. Drunkenness near a lord may earn removal, dismissal, or worse, if the drinker becomes insulting. Words are dangerous during meals. A careless joke about the lord's hunting skill may be remembered. A criticism of the steward's accounts may reach the steward. A complaint about rations may sound like discontent. A whispered rumor about war may disturb the hall. You keep your voice low. The wool merchant does not. He begins describing a market dispute involving a toll collector, 3 damp fleeces, and a scale he insists is dishonest. The gate guards listen with the patience of men who have already inspected onions, blankets, and messenger seals for an entire day. At the high table, the Lord raises one finger. The hall quiets immediately. A servant reads a short message concerning stores in the lower village. The words travel poorly. through the smoke, but everyone understands the important part. Grain deliveries are delayed by mud on the western road. The steward's expression tightens. Winter storehouses do not enjoy delays. For several breaths the hall remains silent. Then the lord gives a small nod and eating resumes. The merchant continues his story more softly. When the meal nears its end, servants collect the trenchers. Some are carried to the kitchen for use in pottage. Others may be given to poor people waiting near the gate or distributed among lesser servants. Food is rarely wasted when hunger waits just beyond the walls. Your trencher is soaked with broth and onion grease. The dog watches it leave with such sorrow that the monk quietly tears off one dry corner and lowers it beneath the table. The dog accepts this act of charity without questioning whether the monk has permission. A final cup passes. The high table rises first. Everyone below stands. You do not remain seated while the Lord leaves. You do not turn your back too quickly. You do not crowd the passage or reach toward the dishes still upon the upper table. The Lord disappears behind a guarded door. Only then does the room loosen. Benches scrape, servants gather cups, guards return to duty, travellers reclaim their blankets. The beeswax candles at the high table are extinguished carefully while the cheaper tallow lights continue smoking below. The dog licks crumbs from the rushes. The monk wipes ink from one thumb, though you have not seen him writing. Outside, the bell begins marking the hour of compline. The hall grows quieter. And as servants carry away the last trenchers, you understand that supper inside a castle is never merely eating. It is rank arranged upon benches, loyalty measured in gestures, suspicion poured into cups, and survival divided carefully from the high table down. The bell of compline rolls through the castle in slow, measured strokes, and the great hall begins folding itself into darkness. Servants gather the last wooden cups. Benches are pushed beneath the trestle tables. The final trenchers vanish toward the kitchens, carrying the smell of onions, ale, and smoked fish with them. One by one, the cheaper tallow candles are pinched out, leaving thin threads of smoke curling upward beneath the soot-black rafters. You wrap the borrowed wool blanket around your shoulders. The dog settles close to your boots. Across the hall, the ink-stained monk stands and glances toward the narrow passage behind the steward's table. He does not move immediately. He waits until the steward turns away. Then he slips into the passage. You notice because curiosity is rarely improved by darkness. After compline movement inside the castle changes. During daylight, corridors belong to servants, messengers, guards, clerks, cooks, laundresses, grooms, and anyone carrying something heavy enough to justify impatience. At night, those same corridors become restricted paths between locked spaces. Doors are barred, stairways are chained, certain courtyards are declared off-limits. Anyone found wandering must explain where they are going, who sent them, and why the journey could not wait until morning. The reasons are practical. A stranger abroad after dark may be stealing food, carrying messages, meeting a servant, opening a gate, visiting a prisoner, or searching for a chamber where someone important sleeps. Even an innocent traveller can disturb guards, startle horses, or knock over a lamp. The castle prefers everyone to remain exactly where they were assigned. This is less a request than a nighttime arrangement backed by iron keys. You tell yourself that the monk is probably going to the chapel. You tell yourself this while following him. The dog rises at once and follows you, proving that poor judgment benefits greatly from companionship. The passage beyond the hall is colder than before. A single horn lantern hangs from a hook, its flame dim behind cloudy panels. The stone floor is bare here, without rushes to soften your steps. Every movement seems louder than it should. Your boots whisper, the dog's claws click. Somewhere ahead, the monk's staff taps once against stone. You move slowly. The first stair you pass leads upward towards the private chambers above the great hall. Earlier, a wax seal stretches across the chain at its entrance. Now the chain remains in place, but the wax bears a fresh thumbprint. You stop. It may be nothing. A servant may have checked the seal. The chamberlain may have opened it and closed it again. Heat from the nearby wall lamp may have softened the wax. Or someone may have tampered with it. No one can quite agree whether seals are truly as secure as household officers pretend. Wax is useful because damage can be seen, but clever hands may lift warm copy or replace it. The safest seal is therefore guarded by someone with no interest in sleep, which describes almost no one in winter. The monk's shadow crosses the far end of the passage. You continue. A watchman appears from a side doorway. You freeze beneath the lantern. He carries a spear in one hand and a small clay lamp in the other. His fur-lined cloak is fastened tightly beneath his chin. He looks at you, then at the dog, then at the blanket wrapped around your shoulders. You explain that you are looking for the privy. This is not entirely impossible. Castles contain latrines in towers, chambers, or narrow wall recesses. At night, finding one without falling down a stair is an achievement deserving of modest celebration. The watchman points back toward the hall. You bow your head. He waits until you turn. You walk several paces in the proper direction, then slip behind a timber screen when he continues his round. The dog follows without hesitation. Medieval loyalty is touching when it is not actively worsening the situation. Behind the screen, a narrow service stair descends toward the lower kitchens. Unlike the private stair, it is not chained because night servants still carry water-bank fires and prepare dough for morning bread. Yet only household workers are permitted to use it. You hear soft voices below. One belongs to the monk, the other is quieter. You descend 3 steps and pause. A door stands half open beneath the stair. Warm candlelight spills across the floor. Through the gap you see the monk speaking with a young clerk in a dark wool tunic. Between them lies a small wooden box bound with cord. The monk places a folded parchment beside it. The clerk checks the corridor. You duck lower. Private meetings after Compline are forbidden in many castles, particularly when they involve sealed letters, locked boxes, or men who keep looking toward doors. A servant meeting a lover may face dismissal. A guard meeting a merchant may be accused of bribery. A clerk meeting a messenger may be carrying out ordinary business. Night makes each possibility equally suspicious. Those who tell the tale never fully agree whether illicit castle meetings are mostly romantic, political, criminal, or simply administrative tasks arranged by people who cannot find a peaceful hour during the day. The dog sneezes. The sound is tiny. In the silent stairwell, it resembles a trumpet announcing treason. The voices stop. You step back. The monk opens the door. For one long moment he stares at you. His face shows no surprise. This is somehow more troubling. The clerk gathers the parchment. The monk lifts the box. Neither calls the guards. Instead, the monk tells you quietly that the chapel is in the opposite direction. You nod. He closes the door. The matter ends, though not comfortably. Perhaps he carries donations for the abbey. Perhaps the box contains relics, accounts medicine, or coins. Perhaps the clerk has hired him to deliver a private letter. Even now, it is hard to tell whether secrecy proves wrongdoing or merely reflects the medieval habit of conducting every important task behind an oak door. You return upstairs. As you pass the sealed stair, a faint draught moves through the corridor. It comes from behind a hanging wall cloth decorated with faded hunting scenes. The dog noses the lower edge. You lift it slightly. A narrow doorway lies behind the fabric. Its iron latch is closed. Hidden passages in castles are often less mysterious than later tales suggest. Some are service routes. Others lead to garderobes, wall stairs, storage chambers, or private chapels. A corridor may be concealed simply because noble residents prefer servants to move without crossing formal rooms. Still, a hidden door after compline is not an invitation. You lower the cloth. Some swear that old keeps contain passages known only to the Lord and one trusted mason. Others claim that forgotten stairs connect towers' wells and burial vaults. Most supposed secret tunnels are probably drains, collapsed cellars, or the enthusiastic memories of people who enjoy improving old stories. The dog sniffs once more and loses interest. You return to the outer hall before the watchman completes his circuit. Around you, travellers sleep beneath wool blankets. The fire has been banked low under ash. A servant checks the oak doors, lowers a bar across the side entrance, and places a clay seal over the latch. The castle is now divided into sleeping zones. The inner ward remains guarded. The kitchens keep one service entrance open. The gatehouse stays awake. Every other door waits for dawn. You lie beside the fading hearth and pull the blanket close. The dog circles upon the rushes and settles against your legs. From somewhere within the walls comes the faint tap of a pilgrim's staff, then silence. You do not know what passes behind the hidden door, what rests inside the monk's wooden box, or whose thumb has marked the wax seal upon the private stair. You know only that after compline the safest place in a castle is wherever the guards last told you to remain. The faint tap of the pilgrim's staff does not return yet. Sleep comes slowly. You lie beside the banked hearth while the castle settles around you in creaks, breaths, and distant footsteps. Cold presses through the rushes beneath your shoulder. The dog sleeps against your legs, twitching once, as though chasing the smoked fish. It has been denied all evening. Before dawn, the chapel bell rings. Its voice is smaller than the watch bell, but sharper, passing through doors and blankets with the quiet determination of a monk who has already decided everyone should be awake. Servants rise first, then guards. Then travellers who understand that remaining horizontal while everyone else prays can attract the sort of attention usually reserved for thieves and contagious livestock. You sit up, fold the borrowed blanket, and follow the others towards the inner ward. The sky above the courtyard is still dark blue. Frost whitens the well roof. Kitchen smoke begins drifting from the cookhouse, carrying the smell of damp firewood and oat pottage. A baker crosses the yard with flour upon his sleeves, while a stable boy leads two horses toward water, keeping them carefully away from the protected well. The chapel stands against the inner wall, small and narrow beside the larger towers. Its doorway is carved with worn figures of saints whose faces have been softened by rain fingers and generations of people touching the stone for luck. You touch nothing. After last night, you have developed a healthy respect for objects that belong to saints, lords, or men carrying keys. Inside, beeswax candles burn before the altar. Their scent is warm and faintly sweet, unlike the greasy smoke of tallow. Painted saints watch from the walls, their colours dim beneath soot. A silver-covered book rests upon the altar cloth, and beside it stands a small reliquary shaped like a church. The castle household enters according to rank. The lord's family kneels near the front. Senior officers stand behind them. Servants, guards, and strangers fill the colder space near the door. Even before prayer begins, the chapel follows the same hierarchy as the great hall. Heaven may judge souls equally, but the household usher still has opinions about seating. The ink-stained monk kneels near the side wall. His wooden box is nowhere to be seen. He does not look toward you. The dog has been left outside, where it scratches once at the door and then apparently begins investigating a bucket. The chaplain begins the office. Latin words rise softly beneath the stone vault. Most people present understand only parts of them, yet they know when to kneel, when to stand, when to cross themselves, and when to remain silent. Habit carries the body where learning cannot. A servant beside you fingers a string of prayer beads. Another holds a small lead pilgrim badge shaped like a scallop shell. Pilgrim badges are bought at shrines and worn upon hats, cloaks, or bags as proof of a holy journey. Some are touched to relics and believed to carry a little of their blessing. Others are sold by merchants who possess more enthusiasm than official permission. No one can quite agree whether every badge has truly rested near a saint's bones. The sellers generally seem very confident, particularly when coins are visible. The chaplain lifts the reliquary. Inside may rest a fragment of bone, cloth, hair, or wood associated with a saint. The household believes the relic protects the castle, brings healing, and lends weight to oaths sworn nearby. Some swear that it is a finger bone from St. Cuthbert. Others whisper that it may belong to a chicken. Those who tell the tale never fully agree, and the reliquary remains closed, which is helpful for faith and extremely helpful for the chicken. When the prayers end, several servants remain behind. One woman kneels before the relic and presses a strip of linen against its case. Her child is ill in the lower village, and she hopes the cloth will carry healing home. The chaplain blesses it, then gives her a small packet of dried herbs from a wooden chest. The remedy contains sage, fennel, and perhaps something more bitter. Faith and medicine travel together easily here. A sick person may receive prayer herbs, warm broth charms, and leeches, often in an order determined by whoever arrives first. Near the altar rail, a guard swears an oath before the cross. He has been accused of losing a bundle of arrows from the wall store. One hand rests upon the gospel book, while he declares that he did not sell them, steal them, or give them away. An oath taken upon sacred objects is dangerous to break. Perjury does not merely offend the Lord, it places the liar's soul in peril. Many people fear divine punishment more than earthly judgment, especially when earthly judgment is already inconveniently close. The steward watches the guard's face. The chaplain watches his hand. You watch the monk. The monk watches the floor. An oath may settle a dispute when evidence is weak, but sacred words do not always prevent falsehood. A desperate man may swear anything. A powerful man may persuade others to support him. A frightened servant may believe that silence is safer than truth. Even now it is hard to tell whether solemn ritual reveals honesty or merely gives fear a more formal costume. After the guard finishes, the chaplain leads him aside. Confession offers spiritual mercy, but it does not necessarily protect someone from castle law. A priest is expected to keep confessed sins secret, yet nobles sometimes pressure clergy for information. A chaplain who hears of treason, murder, or a plan to open the gates may face an impossible choice between sacred duty and the survival of the household. The castle may respect confession. The castle also respects staying unconquered. You move toward the side aisle where a stone bench rests beneath a narrow window. A carved cross has been scratched into the wall beside it. Below the cross, another mark resembles a small hand. People say that anyone pursued by violence may claim sanctuary in a church. Within sacred ground, a fugitive might receive temporary protection from immediate arrest or revenge. In towns and monasteries, sanctuary can allow time for judgment, negotiation, or departure from the region. But a castle chapel is not always independent ground. The Lord owns the walls. His guards control the door. A servant accused of theft cannot simply kneel beside the altar forever, while everyone politely waits for him to become less guilty. Some nobles honor sanctuary carefully. Others remove suspects by force. During rebellion, siege, or fear of treason, sacred boundaries become thinner than anyone likes to admit. You hear footsteps outside. The chapel door opens. Two armed guards enter with a pale kitchen servant between them. His hands are bound with cord and flower stains one sleeve. He looks scarcely old enough to grow a proper beard, though old enough to understand that the morning has gone badly. He pulls toward the altar. The guards tighten their grip. The chaplain steps forward. For a moment, no one speaks. The servant drops to his knees and reaches toward the altar cloth. One guard stops him before his fingers touch it. He is accused of stealing a key from the cellarer's chamber. The same key opened a wine store and a locked passage near the private stair. You think of the disturbed wax seal. You think of the monk's box. The chaplain insists that the servant must be questioned without violence inside the chapel. The steward agrees, though his expression suggests that this mercy has boundaries measured in paces. The servant is allowed to kneel. He whispers rapidly to the chaplain. The guards wait near the door. No one else is permitted to hear. The monk finally raises his head. His face remains calm, but his ink-stained fingers close tightly around his prayer beads. After a few moments, the chaplain stands and speaks quietly with the steward. The servant is not released. Sanctuary has delayed his removal, not prevented it. The guards lead him away once he crosses the chapel threshold. His footsteps fade into the courtyard. You remain beside the cold stone wall, watching candlelight tremble upon the uncertain relic. The chapel offers prayer, confession, healing, and hope. It can soften a punishment, it can pause a quarrel, it can remind a lord that power answers to something higher. But its walls are still inside the fortress, its keys still hang from a mortal belt, and its mercy lasts only as long as armed men agree to wait. The servant's footsteps fade beyond the chapel door, and for several breaths no one moves. The candles continue burning before the uncertain relic. The chaplain lowers his eyes toward the gospel book while the steward already considers questions, keys, and missing wine. Then the household disperses. You follow at a distance as the bound kitchen servant is led across the courtyard. Frost lies beneath the eaves, though grey light has begun softening the roofs. Servants carrying bread and water step aside. A groom pauses with a bridle in his hands. No one asks what has happened. In a castle, people learn when curiosity should become silence. The guards take the prisoner toward the square tower whose heavy door attracted the dog yesterday. The same door opens beneath a long iron key. Its hinges groan and cold air rises from the stair beyond. The dog appears from beneath a cart and follows. You follow the dog. This allows you to feel slightly less responsible for your decisions. The stair descends into damp darkness. A guard carries a horn lantern ahead while the bound servant walks carefully. Below waits a holding chamber. It is not the deep dungeon later storytellers enjoy describing, full of chains and people who have forgotten daylight. Most castle prisoners are kept wherever space and security allow. A guarded room cellar tower chamber or locked attic may serve perfectly well. The chamber contains straw, a bucket, a clay cup and an iron ring fixed into the wall. The guards remove the servant's cord and fasten one ankle to the ring with a short chain. He receives no blanket. The tower keeper says he may earn one after answering questions. Prisoners obey different rules because they control neither food, light movement, nor silence. They eat when a bowl arrives, sleep when noise permits, and speak only when allowed. A prisoner who damages a lock may be chained more closely. A prisoner who insults a guard discovers that guards possess long memories and control the water jug. The keeper searches the servant carefully. He checks sleeves, shoes, hair belt, and mouth. A nail may pick at wood. A bone splinter may scratch a message into plaster. A strip of cloth can hide a coin or carry words to another cell. From inside the servant's shoe, the keeper removes a short length of red thread. Nothing else. The thread may be harmless. It may have tied a key to his ankle. It may belong to the kitchen. No one can quite agree whether every innocent object becomes suspicious because prisoners hide things, or whether prisoners hide things because keepers already suspect every object. The steward arrives carrying the recovered cellar key wrapped in linen. The servant swears he has never seen it. The steward asks where he slept, who worked beside him, and why flour stains his sleeve when the theft occurred after Compline. The servant explains that bakers begin before dawn, and that flour, unlike guilt, spreads everywhere. This is sensible. The steward does not smile. Questioning is not always a formal trial. Officers gather statements, examine seals, and search sleeping places while deciding whether the matter belongs before a manor court, a church court, or the Lord himself. Evidence is uneven, reputation matters, rank matters more. A trusted clerk may be believed over a kitchen boy, even when the clerk possesses ink-stained fingers and an interest in private meetings. You think of the monk. The monk is not present. In the next chamber sits another prisoner, though this one wears a fur-lined cloak and keeps his own boots. He is a hostage. Hostages may be noble children, knights, heirs, or relatives surrendered as guarantees for peace, ransom, debt, or obedience. Their treatment depends upon their value. A high-born hostage may eat at table, attend chapel ride, under guard, and sleep in a furnished room. He may also be threatened if an agreement fails, though a dead hostage has little bargaining value. This captive has blankets, a writing board, and a small brazier. His door is locked, but no chain binds him. He nods politely as you pass, displaying the calm of someone who understands that courtesy is cheaper than escape. Farther along, a debtor sleeps behind a timber grill. He owes money to a merchant attached to the lord's household. His family may bring food, negotiate terms, or sell goods to secure release. Until then, the castle feeds him poorly. Relatives may pay for better bread, bedding, removed irons, or a visitor. Captivity creates its own market. The debtor has hung a charm of rowan twigs above his mattress. Some swear that rowan protects against witchcraft and bad dreams and unjust imprisonment. The keeper allows it because twigs are unlikely to defeat an oak door. Even now it is hard to tell whether the charm comforts him because he believes in it or because it is the only object in the chamber that belongs to him. At the lowest level waits a man accused of spying. 2 guards stand outside his barred door. His food is passed through a hatch. His hands remain bound whenever the door opens. No visitor may speak with him without the constable present. A suspected spy faces harsher rules because information is a weapon. He may know the gate, the guards, the grain stores, or the wall password. Such knowledge can kill without drawing a blade. Some swear that spies conceal messages in hollow pilgrim badges, beneath saddle stitching, or inside loaves baked around folded parchment. Others claim they use knots in cords or marks scratched beneath bridges. Those who tell the tale never fully agree because a captured spy explains little and a successful one leaves no account. The dog growls softly at the barred door. Something moves within. You do not stop. Back in the holding chamber, the kitchen servant sits upon the straw. The steward orders him kept without visitors until midday. He may receive bread and water. He may speak with the chaplain. He may not send messages. The door closes. The long key turns. The sound is quieter than the gate closing last night, yet for the servant it seals a world just as completely. You climb toward the courtyard while cold air follows from below. Above bells mark the morning hour. Cooks stir pottage. Horses stamp in the stables and ordinary life resumes. Behind the tower door, prisoners wait under rules shaped not by what they have done, but by what the castle fears they may know hide or become. The tower door closes behind you, and the long key turns once more. Outside, the castle has brightened beneath a pale winter sun. Frost melts from the roof edges and falls in slow drops upon the courtyard stones. Servants cross between kitchen, stable, and storehouse with baskets balanced against their hips. Somewhere near the smithy, iron rings against iron. The sound rises toward the walls where men continue watching a world that appears quiet enough to be trusted and never quite is. A guard captain waits beside the stair leading to the battlement. He recognizes you from the night watch. This does not seem to please him. You are permitted to climb only because the steward's assistant has been ordered to inspect the upper storerooms and has reluctantly accepted you as an extra pair of hands. The assistant's keys are still wrapped in cloth, so they do not chime. The dog attempts to follow, but a sentry blocks it with the shaft of his spear. The dog sits at the foot of the stair and looks upward with grave disappointment. This is probably for the best. A castle wall is not improved by an animal chasing pigeons along the parapet. The stair coils tightly inside the tower. Each step is worn at the centre by generations of boots. The turn rises clockwise, giving a right-handed defender above more room to swing a weapon, while forcing an attacker below to fight against the central pillar. At least that is what some builders and soldiers claim. No one can quite agree whether every spiral stair follows this rule deliberately. Some turn the other way, and some are shaped mainly by the available space. Medieval builders are often credited with planning every stone as a military puzzle, when occasionally a stair is narrow because walls are thick and masons dislike unnecessary work. You emerge into cold wind. The battlement runs along the outer wall between two towers. Crenellations rise at regular intervals, offering cover to defenders. The gaps between them open toward the road, river, fields, and distant forest. You step toward one. A watchman immediately tells you to stand back. The rule is not merely intended to prevent clumsy visitors from falling. A stranger leaning over the parapet may be studying the base of the wall. He may count stones, examine cracks, locate drains, or search for places hidden from the towers. He may also drop something. A stone letter rope tool or small bundle can pass information or supplies to someone waiting below. Even refuse thrown carelessly from the wall may strike a guard traveller or animal. The battlements belong to the watchman. Everyone else remains where they can be seen. The steward's assistant unlocks a low door beneath the tower roof. Inside lies a store of bowstrings, spare lanterns, horn panels, bundles of arrows, and pots of resin covered with waxed cloth. Nothing may be touched without counting. Each arrow is a weapon and an entry in an account. Each string must remain dry. Each lantern must return to its hook. A missing object can mean theft, carelessness, or preparation for betrayal. The assistant counts the arrow bundles twice. The missing arrows mentioned in the chapel have not been recovered. The guard accused before the relic remains under suspicion, although he continues on duty under watch. Perhaps the bundle has been misplaced. Perhaps it has been sold. Perhaps someone carries it toward an enemy camp. Even now it is hard to tell whether small losses reveal grand conspiracies or merely the ability of household stores to vanish into the wrong cupboard. You lift a covered basket as instructed and carry it towards the next tower. The basket contains fresh bowstrings made from twisted hemp. You keep both hands visible. Visitors do not handle bows. Untrained servants do not draw them for amusement. No one points an unloaded weapon toward the courtyard simply because there is no arrow upon it. Crossbows remain unspanned unless duty requires them, for a released cord can injure a hand, shatter a mechanism, or send a bolt somewhere that becomes difficult to explain. A young sentry stands near an embrasure, holding a longbow. His fingers are wrapped against the cold. Damp weather weakens bowstrings, so he keeps a spare beneath his cloak. Beside him rests a horn container filled with wax and fat used to protect the string. Some archers rub charms onto bows or whisper a saint's name before shooting. Others attach small feathers' teeth or coloured threads near the grip. Some swear that carrying a piece of yew cut under a particular moon steadies the hand. The captain allows such habits. He does not allow poor maintenance. Near the corner tower, a brazier burns behind a low stone screen. It warms the sentries and keeps a signal flame ready. Beside it lie bundles of dry brushwood straw and resinous splinters. These are guarded like weapons. Signal fires can warn neighbouring manors, villages, or castles of attack. A flame from one tower may be answered across miles of dark country. Smoke by day and fire by night can carry urgency faster than a rider on a muddy road. But a false signal can empty villages, frighten markets, summon armed men, and reveal alarm to anyone watching. No servant may light the beacon, no sentry may add green wood merely to create more smoke, no traveller may warm his hands at the prepared fuel. A man who disturbs the signal fire risks being accused of sabotage. A man who lights it without command risks something worse, because his flame may be intended for enemies rather than friends. The captain checks the resin jar and replaces its lid. Some swear that beacons are lit by arrows wrapped in burning cloth. Others insist they are kindled with torches carried from guarded hearths. Both methods may be used, though the castle prefers the one least likely to set its own roof alight. You continue along the wall. Below, the dog has found the suspicious monk crossing the yard. It follows him closely. The monk looks up. For a moment his eyes meet yours, then he disappears beneath the covered passage towards the inner tower. You nearly call down. The captain stops you before you speak. Voices carry from walls. Careless talk about stores, guard numbers, damaged masonry gate routines, or missing weapons may reach people below. A merchant camped near the road might listen. A servant could repeat what he hears in an alehouse. A prisoner's friend may learn when the watch changes. Castle defences are not discussed where strangers can hear them. They are not discussed casually in the Great Hall. They are not written in private letters unless necessary. A person who shares such knowledge may be judged a fool in peace and a traitor in war. The captain points toward the northern wall where masons repair a cracked merlon beneath canvas. The work appears ordinary, but no visitor is allowed near it. Weak stone is a secret. You shift the basket in your arms and turn away. At the final tower, the assistant unlocks another door. Inside, the bowstrings are counted and stored. The key turns. Wax is pressed across the latch.
The walls remain silent beneath the wind. From this height, the castle seems powerful, orderly, and secure. Yet every tower depends upon men staying awake, every signal upon the right hand, striking flame, every weapon upon careful counting, and every secret upon hundreds of people choosing not to speak. Well, the dog begins barking near the inner passage. The monk has vanished again.
And along the battlements the watchman continues staring beyond the fields while danger may already be moving quietly within the walls. The dog's barking carries across the inner ward, then stops so suddenly that the silence feels deliberate. You descend from the battlements with the steward's assistant close behind. His keys remain wrapped in cloth, but his steps are faster now. In the courtyard, guards move toward the passage where the monk disappeared. A stable boy is questioned. A kitchen servant is told to remain beside the well. The gatehouse horn does not sound, yet the castle seems to tighten around itself. Then a rider arrives at the outer gate. You hear the challenge from above, the exchange of names, and the slow opening of the wicket door. The man enters on foot, leading a lathered horse whose breath rises white in the cold. Mud covers both rider and saddle. One sleeve is torn, and a folded strip of parchment is tied beneath his cloak. The constable reads it beneath the gatehouse lantern. His face changes. Within moments the watch bell rings 3 times. Not the ordinary marking of an hour, not the measured signal of a changing guard. 3 hard strokes pass through the walls and bring every moving figure in the courtyard to a halt. Rumours have reached the western villages. Armed men have been seen near the forest road. No one knows whether they are raiders, deserters, mercenaries, or frightened peasants carrying farm tools. No one can quite agree whether the report is reliable, because every messenger brings certainty until the next messenger brings another kind. The castle prepares as though the danger is real. Siege law begins before a siege. The outer gate remains closed. The market planned for the morning is cancelled. Servants are sent to count grain, salt arrows, lamp, oil, and water. Livestock grazing near the lower fields must be driven inside or moved toward protected villages. Men working beyond the walls are recalled before the road becomes unsafe. Ordinary rules do not disappear. They multiply. The steward orders the winter storehouses sealed after a second count. From this hour, bread portions are reduced. Ale is measured more carefully. No one may take food from the kitchen without a marked token. A cook complains that the new ration is too small for men on wall duty. The steward agrees and increases the guard's share while reducing the portion for travellers. Your breakfast becomes a thinner bowl of pottage and a piece of coarse bread, scarcely wider than your palm. The dog receives nothing official. It begins inspecting unofficial possibilities beneath a cart. During fear of siege, even animals fall under regulation. Horses are assigned according to military need. Oxen are kept for hauling stone timber and water. Cows provide milk but consume fodder. Pigs eat scraps and almost anything else which makes them useful until grain grows scarce. If stores fail, livestock may be slaughtered according to a strict order. No one discusses the final order. Within hearing of the horses, refugees gather outside before midday. Farmers, widows, children, labourers, and elderly villagers crowd near the gate with blankets, tools baskets, and household saints wrapped in cloth. Some bring goats or chickens, others carry only bread and whatever they could lift quickly. The guards do not admit everyone. This is one of the cruelest rules of castle survival. Every person inside requires water and food. A fortress that opens its gates without limit may become crowded beyond endurance. Disease spreads through packed halls, wells are strained, latrines overflow, grain disappears faster than expected. The Lord must decide who enters, Household servants are admitted, skilled craftsmen are useful. Men able to defend the walls may pass, families attached to the manor receive preference. Strangers remain outside unless they possess money, influence valuable news, or a talent the castle suddenly needs. Those who tell the tale never fully agree whether lords follow these rules with cold calculation or painful necessity. From the gate, the difference is difficult to see. A woman holds up a pilgrim badge and begs for sanctuary. The gatekeeper looks toward the chapel. The chaplain looks towards the steward. She is allowed inside with one child and no goat. The goat remains on the road, deeply unimpressed by feudal emergency planning. Inside the ward, sleeping places are reassigned. The outer hall fills with villagers. Straw mattresses are pushed closer together. Wool blankets are counted again. Anyone showing fever, rash, or persistent coughing is sent toward a separate room near the old stable. People fear illness almost as much as attack. Bad air, corrupted water, divine displeasure, and hidden poison are all blamed when sickness spreads. Herbs are burned beneath the rafters. Vinegar is sprinkled near doorways. A bundle of rosemary and juniper smoulders in an iron pan, producing enough smoke to convince everyone that disease has received a formal warning. The well receives double guards. The cistern lid is checked. Buckets are marked according to use. No one may draw water alone. A rumour passes through the hall that an enemy once poisoned a castle well with a dead animal. Another person insists the story involves herbs. A third says the well was never poisoned at all and that everyone simply became sick from bad meat. Even now it is hard to tell whether such tales preserve a real memory or merely give fear a shape. By afternoon the portcullis is lowered halfway. Masons inspect the inner gate. Carpenters bring timber toward weak doors. Archers carry bundles to the towers, and the missing arrows become more troubling with every passing hour. The accused guard is removed from duty. The kitchen servant remains in the holding chamber. The monk has not been found. You see the constable questioning the young clerk who met him after Compline. The clerk denies everything with pale confidence. His writing hand shakes. Messages are now controlled. No private letter may leave the castle. No servant may approach the postern gate. No one is allowed to speak openly about food stores, wall repairs, guard numbers, or the road reports. Fear weakens morale, and despair can spread through a crowded fortress faster than fire. Anyone who claims the castle cannot hold may be punished. Anyone who says the enemy is already nearby may be questioned. Anyone who repeats a rumor may be accused of helping the enemy, even when the rumor began with a guard. By evening the gates are barred before sunset. Watchfires glow above the towers. Families huddle in the outer hall beside bundles taken from their homes. The dog curls near your blanket, having somehow acquired a heel of bread from a source that prefers secrecy. The monastery bells sound faintly across the dark fields. No answering bell comes from the castle. Silence itself has become an order. You sit near the banked hearth, listening to boots cross the battlements and keys turn within distant doors. Beyond the walls, perhaps armed men are approaching, perhaps nothing is approaching at all, yet inside the castle has already changed. Food is smaller, speech is softer, water is guarded, strangers are watched, and every ordinary act now carries the weight of survival. The silence imposed upon the castle lasts until dawn, though silence is never complete, where hundreds of people share stone walls, straw beds, anxious thoughts, and one determined dog. You wake to the creak of the outer hall door and the smell of wet wool drying near the hearth. Refugees lie close together beneath blankets. A child murmurs in sleep. Somewhere near the kitchen passage a wooden bowl falls and is immediately blamed upon someone too tired to defend himself. No attack has come during the night. No riders have appeared beneath the walls. No arrows have crossed the ditch, yet the castle remains closed. The messenger's report may be true. Armed men may still be hiding among the trees. Or the entire alarm may have grown from a frightened shepherd, a distant campfire, and the medieval talent for improving troubling news before breakfast. The Lord will not reopen the gates until another matter is settled. The missing arrows, the stolen cellar key, the disturbed wax seal, and the monk's secret meeting have been drawn together into one suspicion. Somewhere within the household, messages may be passing beyond the walls. A manor court is called in the great hall. The trestle tables are removed from the centre, leaving an open space before the raised dais. The Lord sits beneath a faded wall, hanging with the steward, constable, chaplain, and household clerk arranged beside him. The high table that served supper now serves judgment. This does little to improve anyone's appetite. You stand near the rear wall among servants, guards, villagers, and travellers. The dog settles upon your boots, apparently confident that it has been appointed to observe legal procedure. The accused kitchen servant is brought from the tower. His face is pale from the cold cell, but his hands are no longer bound. The guard suspected of losing the arrows stands nearby without his sword. The young clerk waits beside them, holding his ink-stained fingers tightly together. The monk remains absent. His absence speaks more loudly than most testimony. The steward begins with the missing key. It was found near a service stair after Compline. The servant had access to the kitchen passage. Flour stained his sleeve. A witness claims to have seen him near the cellarer's room. The witness is a scullion who dislikes him. This matters, though no one knows how much. Medieval justice often rests upon reputation. A person known as honest may receive support from neighbours or fellow servants. Someone known for quarrels, debts, or theft faces suspicion before speaking. The accused servant asks 3 men to swear that he worked beside them before dawn. 2 agree. The third looks towards the steward and remembers another duty elsewhere. Memory becomes flexible when authority is seated beneath a banner. The constable then displays the missing bundle of arrows. It was found behind a loose board in the clerk's chamber. A murmur moves through the hall. The young clerk protests that anyone could have placed it there. His chamber is shared. The board is old. The arrows are not marked with his name. All of this may be true. The household does not become less suspicious. Next comes a folded letter bearing the Lord's seal. The seal is false. It resembles the proper mark closely, but one edge of the device is too shallow, and the wax contains more tallow than beeswax. The letter orders a postern guard to admit a messenger after midnight. The order was never carried out. The guard who received it doubted the seal and kept the letter. For this he is praised publicly and still questioned privately, which is the usual reward for surviving a conspiracy. Forging a seal can be treated as treason because a seal speaks with another person's authority. A false command may open a gate, release a prisoner, transfer money, or send soldiers away from the walls. The hand that cuts the imitation may be punished as severely as the hand that uses it. A waxworker is summoned. He examines the false impression and says it may have been pressed from a carved piece of bone-hard wood or softened metal. No one has found the device. Some swear that a stolen seal cannot be used safely beneath moonlight, because the rightful owner's guardian saint will blur the image. Others insist that a forged seal cracks when placed near a true relic. The chaplain does not test either claim. The uncertain finger bone remains in the chapel where it has already endured enough responsibility. Witnesses are called one after another. A stable boy saw the monk near the gate. A laundress heard the clerk whispering about the western road. A guard remembers a pilgrim asking how often the postern watch changes. The pilgrim may have been the monk, or another pilgrim, or someone wearing a badge bought from a shrine merchant who asked no theological questions. Pilgrims are welcomed because hospitality is a virtue. They are feared because travel gives them excuses to cross boundaries, carry letters, and ask directions. A cloak covered in holy badges can hide a very ordinary spy. No one can quite agree whether the monk truly belongs to the abbey named in his letter. The seal he presented at the gate appears genuine, but a genuine letter can be stolen, borrowed, or given to the wrong man. The constable searches his sleeping place. Beneath the rushes, guards find a scrap of parchment marked with simple lines. It may be part of a map. It may be an account of roads. It may be the absent-minded drawing of a man waiting for supper. Those who tell the tale never fully agree, and the monk is not present to improve the explanation. The Lord asks whether ordeal should be used. The hall grows still. Trials by hot iron, cold water, blessed morsels, or sacred oaths have long been believed to invite divine judgment where human evidence fails. In some regions, church authorities have already discouraged or forbidden formal ordeals, yet older customs do not disappear, simply because educated men disapprove. A frightened household remembers whatever promises certainty. One servant whispers that a guilty person cannot hold a heated key without blistering. Another says, bread blessed before the altar will choke a liar. The dog yawns. This is the most sensible response offered so far. The chaplain advises against ordeal. He argues that signs can be misunderstood, wounds can heal strangely, and fear can make an innocent person appear guilty. The steward prefers witnesses, searches, and confession. The Lord prefers an answer before opening the gates. At last, the clerk breaks. Not dramatically. He simply lowers his head. The monk paid him to copy a seal from an old account roll. The clerk believed the letter would help a merchant avoid a toll. He hid the arrows after another man delivered them, though he claims not to know why they were needed. He names the kitchen servant as innocent of the key. The key was taken from the cellarer's chamber by the monk. The hall exhales. The kitchen servant closes his eyes. The accused guard is cleared of selling the arrows, though he is fined for failing to report the missing bundle quickly. Innocence in a castle may still be expensive. The clerk is taken away. His punishment will depend upon whether the monk is found and whether enemies truly wait beyond the forest. The forged letter is placed beside the Lord's true seal. One commands nothing, the other commands men doors, weapons, and fear. They differ only in wax skill and belief. Then a horn sounds from the northern tower. Every head turns toward the doors. The manor court ends without ceremony. Guards rush toward the walls while the Lord rises, and the constable calls for the gates to remain barred. You follow the movement into the courtyard, the dog closes behind. Above the battlements, a sentry points towards the winter road. A lone figure is approaching beneath a pilgrim's cloak. The lone figure advances along the winter road while every watchman leans toward the northern parapet. A broad hat hangs low above the shoulders and lead badges glimmer faintly along the brim. The traveller carries no visible sword. One hand rests upon a staff. The other remains beneath the cloak. The gate captain calls for the figure to stop. The pilgrim obeys. Questions pass down from the wall. The answer rises through the cold air, thin but clear. The traveller claims to be the missing monk and asks to enter under the protection of the chapel. No one opens the gate. Sanctuary may protect a person already inside sacred ground. It does not require a fortress to lift its portcullis for every suspicious pilgrim who arrives after a forged order has been discovered. The constable demands that the monk place his staff cloak purse and any letters upon the road. He must then step backward and wait. The monk does so slowly. Beneath the cloak he wears an ordinary wool habit, mud-stained to the knees. His purse contains a few coins, a wax tablet, 2 pilgrim badges, a small packet of dried herbs, and the wooden box you saw after Compline. The box remains closed. A guard is lowered outside by a narrow stair protected between the walls. He retrieves the objects with a hooked pole rather than his hands. Suspicion has become so thorough that even a wooden box receives more personal space than most servants. Inside the gatehouse the lid is opened. It contains silver coins, copied seals, folded letters, and a small piece of carved bone bearing the Lord's mark. The monk does not deny carrying them. He claims the letters expose a plot among merchants who wish to avoid tolls and purchase grain secretly. He says the clerk helped him only because the evidence had to be copied before the conspirators moved it. The constable asks why arrows were hidden. The monk answers that they were proof. No one can quite agree whether the monk returns because he is innocent, because his allies have abandoned him, or because he believes the chapel relic will protect him from judgment. The Lord orders him admitted through the wicket under guard. He enters without staff cloak badges or belt. The dog sniffs him once and sneezes. The monk is taken toward the chapel, where his sanctuary will be discussed by men whose swords remain close at hand. By midday, riders return from the western road. The armed band near the forest proves to be a company of discharged soldiers travelling toward another lord's territory. They have stolen food from 2 villages, but show no sign of attacking the castle. The siege alarm begins to loosen. Gates remain barred while reports are compared. Guards still watch the well. The courtyard seems to breathe again before noon. The steward announces that travellers may leave before sunset. You decide to go. Leaving a castle is not the reverse of entering one. Entry asks who you are. Departure asks what you have learned, what you carry, and whether the household regrets allowing you near either. Your borrowed blanket is inspected and returned to the storeroom. The wooden cup is counted. The marked parchment proving your lodging payment is collected. The steward's assistant checks his wax tablet and confirms that you owe nothing. Then your bundle is searched again. The spare shirt, wooden spoon, bread crust, and onions appear as harmless as before. The guard examines the seams of the blanket you brought from home, feeling for letters stitched into the hem. Travellers may not carry sealed messages without declaring them. Servants may need written permission to leave. Merchants require proof that tolls have been paid. Men attached to the household cannot simply disappear beyond the gate because work feels less inviting than the road. A clerk prepares a travel pass. The parchment names the day, the gate, your appearance, and the reason for departure. A small wax mark confirms that you leave with permission. You cannot read it. You are advised not to lose it. Medieval documents possess a special talent for becoming most important to the people least able to understand them. At the weapon chest, you present the notched token received on your first night. The gate guard compares it with the cut upon your eating knife, then returns the blade handle first. The monk's staff remains confiscated. So do the clerk's writing tools, the forged seal, and the hidden arrows. Confiscated objects may be restored after judgment, sold to cover fines, placed in the Lord's stores, or simply vanish into administrative darkness. Some swear that castle guards keep the best seized knives for themselves. Guards deny this while owning unusually good knives. Before departure, you are warned not to repeat details of the alarm. You must not describe weak masonry guard, changes, water stores, postern doors, prisoner rooms, or the number of arrows kept in each tower. You must not carry rumours that the castle is starving, divided, cursed, or secretly ruled by a dog. The final claim is not mentioned, though evidence is growing. Revealing defensive information can be treated as treason even after you leave. A careless tale in an alehouse may reach merchants, mercenaries, or men who pay generously for gossip. The safest castle secret is the one that sounds too dull to repeat. The wicket opens. Cold air enters the gate passage. Outside, the broken cart has gone, leaving one cracked spoke beside the ditch. Frost thickens upon the road, and the river bridge shines beneath a skin of ice. You step out with several merchants and villagers. At the bridge, another officer examines your pass and demands a small crossing toll. Paying to leave after paying to enter feels unfair, which proves that the system is functioning exactly as intended. The dog slips past. Without payment, no toll collector attempts to stop it. Beyond the bridge, you look back once. The portcullis waits above the gate. Watchfires smoke along the walls. Bells remain silent. Then the wicket closes and you carry your knife, your guarded memories, and the knowledge that even beyond the walls, castle rules may continue following you down the frozen road. The wicket closes behind you with a muted wooden thud, and the road opens ahead beneath a sky the colour of old pewter. Frost has hardened the mud into ridges beneath your boots. Each step carries you farther from the gatehouse, though the castle still seems close enough to watch you. The dog trots beside you without invitation. Its paws leave a neat line across the white verge, passing the cracked spoke abandoned by the broken cart. You remember the driver waiting outside after curfew, the guards refusing to risk the whole fortress for one unlucky wheel, and the heavy doors meeting just before darkness swallowed the road. Now you understand why. Castle rules are rarely gentle because the dangers they answer are rarely patient. A gate opened once too often may admit armed men. A candle left untended may burn a roof. A dirty bucket may foul the well. A missing key may open a cellar, a stair, or a private chamber where one whispered secret matters more than a chest of silver. You cross the bridge while the toll-keeper watches from his booth. Behind you, the battlements rise through river mist. A sentry moves between the merlons, small against the stone. Somewhere above him, the prepared beacon waits beneath its covering, and bundles of counted arrows remain locked in their tower. The monastery bell sounds beyond the fields. Its note reaches you more clearly outside the walls. It marks the hour without asking whether anyone is ready. The sound reminds you of the first dark morning of cold hands around a wooden bowl of beeswax candles in the chapel, and of the relic that may belong to a saint or to an exceptionally well-travelled chicken. Some mysteries are strengthened by locked containers. Ahead, villagers return toward their homes carrying bundles reclaimed from the crowded hall. The woman admitted without her goat walks with her child beneath a shared cloak. Farther on, the goat waits beside a hedge, proving that even exclusion from a fortress cannot damage a creature with sufficient stubbornness. You share the last of your coarse bread with the dog. It accepts the peace and continues following. No one can quite agree whether an animal that chooses a traveller brings luck protection or merely increased responsibility. You decide it brings warm company, which is useful enough on a winter road. At a roadside shrine, you pause beneath a small roof of weathered boards. A faded image of a saint stands behind a lattice, surrounded by scraps of ribbon, bent pins, and old wax. Travellers leave such offerings for safe journeys, healing, or gratitude after danger passes. You place no coin there, having surrendered enough money to tolls. Instead, you straighten a fallen sprig of rosemary. This may not impress the saint, but it improves the arrangement. Beyond the shrine fields stretch beneath frost. Smoke rises from village roofs. A man repairs a cartwheel outside a shed, tapping the rim into place with slow, measured blows. The sound carries across the morning and returns you once more to the castle gate, where haste, suspicion, and obedience ruled the final minutes before sunset. Inside those walls, the kitchen servant may be released with an apology too small for a knight in chains. The young clerk may face judgment for the forged seal. The monk may kneel before the uncertain relic, while the Lord decides whether secrecy served loyalty or betrayal. Even now it is hard to tell whether the monk uncovers a plot or creates one. The castle will decide because castles must decide even when truth remains muddy. That may be the deadliest rule of all. Stone walls demand certainty from people who possess very little of it. A guard cannot wait forever before lowering a portcullis. A steward cannot leave grain uncounted because theft is only possible. A captain cannot ignore a distant fire because it may be harmless. Rules turn uncertainty into action, and action keeps a household alive, while sometimes crushing the innocent beneath its weight. You walk on as the sun lifts weakly above the trees. Your fur-lined cloak is still damp at the hem. The travel pass rests safely inside your tunic. Your eating knife hangs again at your belt. Behind you, the watchfires fade in daylight, and the walls become less threatening with every turn of the road. Soon, the castle disappears. Only the highest tower remains visible above the winter trees, then that too sinks behind the ridge. The road grows quiet. Mist lies low along the hedges, while every bare branch holds one bright bead of thawing frost in the very soft and quiet newborn light. Your breathing settles into the pace of your steps, slow and even, while the dog moves close beside you. The bells become softer, no longer commands, only distant notes drifting over frost and field. You reach a small roadside fire, where two pilgrims warm their hands. They make room without questions. You sit upon a smooth stone, loosen your cloak, and feel warmth touch your fingers. Smoke rises gently. A clay cup of weak ale passes into your hands. The firelight rests upon the rim, steady and low. No guard examines the cup. No steward counts the bread. No key turns behind you. The half-burned candle, the guarded well, the locked tower, and the long oak doors begin to fade into memory. The road waits, but not urgently, for now you rest. The dog curls against your boot, warm and still. Frost glitters beyond the fire. The sky softens from grey toward pale gold, and the cold fields hold their silence without threat. You breathe in slowly, you breathe out. The castle is behind you, its rules sealed within stone, iron wax, and watchful memory. Nothing there can reach you now. The bell is distant. The gate is closed. The night has passed. Around the little fire, wool cloaks settle hands, grow warm, and tired eyes begin to close. The world becomes smaller, quieter, gentler. Only the soft crackle of wood remains, then the hush between each spark, then the calm darkness, waiting just beyond the warmth. You let your shoulders loosen. You let the road disappear. And beneath the fading bells of a medieval morning, you drift peacefully into sleep.